soon.
Perfect. We are live on YouTube. My name is Ricky Shabazz. I have the honor and privilege of being the president of San Diego City College. Thank you for joining our College Council meeting where we bring together all the leaders of the constituency groups at San Diego City College. There are a number of ways that you can place an agenda item on College Council, either by reaching out to one of the leaders that I'm going to be introducing momentarily, who represent our wonderful faculty, classified professionals, SPA members, supervisors, and our managers, as well as our students, have an opportunity to place an agenda item for us to discuss or present on a topic. You also can contact Janelle or Ira in the president's office. They would be happy to add an item to College Council. We will begin with the roll call. Again, my name is Ricky. I have the honor and privilege of being the president of San Diego City College. We are broadcasting live on YouTube. For those watching YouTube, thank you for joining our meeting where the leaders of the campus come to talk about the governance and business of the college. Also joining us, I believe Mona has not necessarily transitioned into her new position. So I believe Paul is the past president, and I saw Paul. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Tilly is our vice president of instruction.
Present.
Robbie is our chair of institutional technology.
Present.
Caesar is our information officer.
Present.
Jocelyn is our supervisory representative.
Present.
Suna is the president of the Chairs Academy. Welcome, Suna.
Present.
Susan, the dean of institutional effectiveness.
Present.
Masa is our administrative representative.
Present.
Diego, hopefully you're feeling better. Diego is our president of academic, it's academic associated student government. And I have my glasses on and I still miss that. Diego.
Present.
Thank you for being here, Diego. You are the reason we are here. John, vice president of administrative services.
Present.
Marciano, vice president of students.
Present.
And I apologize in the beginning. You're going to have to help me. Zia is standing in for Sean, our president of the Classified Senate. Did I get close?
It's Xenia.
I forgot the Y. Welcome.
It's an I, but yes, it's Xenia.
Good to see you. Oops, I meant I. I don't know why I said Y. Good to see
Present.
Maria Jose is the president of the Academic Senate.
Present.
And this makes up the leaders of our campus. If you would like to place an agenda item for discussion, you can reach out to any of them. We'd like to begin the meeting with approval of the meeting notes from July 19th. Someone like to make a motion?
Ricky, this is Robbie Ewell. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Robbie, and you modeled it perfectly by introducing yourself for the record. Does someone like to second the meeting notes from July 19th?
This is Maria Jose Celedon Perez. I second.
Thank you, Maria Jose. Is a great job modeling. Any further discussion? Any further discussion about the meeting notes? We have got a first by Robbie, a second by Maria Jose. Hearing none, if you would vote by clicking the reaction button, the green being yes, the X being in opposition. I learned that there's a coffee now. So if you like to abstain, you can hit the coffee. Yes, we have one abstention. Great, motion carries. I see you, Susan. We have two folks abstaining. Motion passes.
Three abstentions.
Oh, sorry about that. 3, yes, Tilly. I gotta get used to seeing the coffee now. Moving forward, we're looking at, and it says board retreat. It is this foundation Foundation. It is our college council retreat, and I should have called that. We are hoping to have a college council retreat the last week of September, which is our meeting, our last meeting in September, to develop some goals for our college council that can be evaluated. And so I am working with Susan Murray to bring in a consultant, Al Solano, who will help lead a discussion for this group of leaders on campus to develop some goals to be able to assess. We haven't evaluated college council in some time. And as we move into our accreditation visit, we want to make sure that everyone knows that their voice does matter. And so developing some goals for this group around governance and communication, decision-making, that then we can evaluate. And so Susan will take a stab at developing an evaluation tool led by Al to help us lead a discussion on what would be the goal of this council in terms of wanting to accomplish next, or in a couple of weeks, this academic year. Any questions about that? Is there anyone who would like to work with Susan on this project, like a subcommittee? I see Tilly has a hand. I see Jocelyn has a hand. So Susan, if you wouldn't mind working with Jocelyn and Tilly and then getting them together with Al in preparation. What we'll do is just use our last September meeting. That will be the single agenda item unless there's a burning thing that needs to be brought forward. And that subcommittee will work on coming up with a template and a format to both develop some goals, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever is the pleasure of the group, and then an evaluation tool so that as we go through the next academic year, that we will know what our goals are as a college council and then be able to evaluate them at the end of the year. Any other questions about that or questions? Well, thank you all for volunteering. I appreciate that. That was very easy. Number 4 is turning over to John Parker to provide a budget presentation, or really a budget update on the state budget. John?
Which do you want? Do you want the update or the presentation or both?
I want the combo deal.
You get the combo, you can upgrade to the combo deal. We'll do that. Thank you. I'll share my screen here. And if I can have that enabled really quick.
You should have access now, John.
Okay, great. Thank you. Perfect. How's that? Good to go? Thank you. All right, so I'll make this as quick and painless as possible, but we're at that time of the year where we're closing the books for the year ending June 30th, 2022 for fiscal year 21-22. However, we're still in the process of closing the books, going on 5 to 6 weeks later here, which is typical. So we imagine we'll be closing through the end of this week as we're still submitting journal entries and truing up the budget with the district for the campus. And we're also getting it to the point to transition to finalizing the tentative budget for the eventual adopted budget approval that goes to the board next month and will be approved. However, let's talk about fiscal year. I don't want to put this in presentation mode because it throws it off for me. So if this is okay, I'll just keep it in this mode here. So the ending balance or the net income is tantamount to the net income for the college for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022 is approximately $1.1 million. That is as of today. What will happen is we'll see this amount decrease by approximately 75% as the district keeps 75% of the college's ending balance or surplus, and the college keeps 25%. This is to help build up or build back the district reserve. At some point in the future, it may be 50-50 or some other weighted average or weighted combination thereof. But we'll hopefully be able to keep 100 or 250 to $300,000. This is a win for us. As you can see, this trend we have here, I guess I don't have a trend line in here, but you can see going back to 2018, we were almost $4 million in the red. And again, in 2020, when COVID hit, just over $3 million in the red. Thanks to the windfall of state and federal funds, primarily HERF and MSI funds, we have been able to sustain a positive balance for the last 2 years. So I was just explaining to Ricky and my colleagues at the cabinet, 20 plus years as finance accounting professional, I have not missed a budget, and that streak continues. So thank you everyone in your role in helping us to continue that streak. I'll get into some reminders for budget and finance budget planning as I go through the slides here. And I'll continue to do so as I'm meeting with budget managers on a monthly basis in some instances, and a quarterly basis in most instances starting this year. And I'll go high level and I'll get right through these. Funding sources, I think most of us are aware of: state apportionment, property taxes, lottery funds, gift donations. We'll skip through the resource allocation formula. This is how we actually get to the funding for the college. So it's these are the funding sources through the district resource allocation formula and through the campus allocation model, which is distributed to the campuses, which is what we're loading, and we base our FTEF targets on, and the SCIF funding model, which I'll get into a brief explanation of the student-centered funding formula, which is essential for each of us to understand. This is high level. I don't want to put anyone to sleep, but if you suffer from insomnia, you can read through the student-centered funding formula on the state chancellor's website. It consists of 3 components, as you may be aware. There's a base allocation of 70%, supplemental allocation of 20%, and a student success allocation of 10%. The base allocation is pretty much enrollment. We transition from a 100% FTS enrollment to the student-centered funding formula, of which now it's 70% FTES. There's a supplemental of 20%, which is low-income students. These are the promised students. These are Pell students and AB 540, I believe, students as well. And the successor students are those who are able to transfer, receive a certificate, associate's degree, or a bachelor's degree. That's 10%. So the objective is to raise the completion rate. The operative word being a completion rate here. We get students in the door. The student-centered funding formula is set up in such a way that we want to see students through to completion. So we are incented with the 10% and, to a lesser extent, the 20% through persistence. So not just getting students in the doors, in the classroom, and in seats, but keeping them in the doors, in the classrooms, and in the seats. When our students drop, when our students withdraw and they don't return, we're leaving money on the table. I want to show you real quick without crossing your eyes. Let me know if you're able to see my toggle.
Yes.
This Excel spreadsheet. Yes. Okay. So this is a spreadsheet I'm borrowing from Palomar to try and recreate, to provide a forecast for us here in business services of the student-centered fund. It's redundant, but it helps us understand the nuances in the funding. So each of these columns here, this is the base allocation, this is the supplemental allocation, and this is the student success allocation. I have another PDF, which I won't show you, but there are points for each of these categories: 3-year credit, special admin, associate's degree, transfer, you name. All of these have a different weighting and different point system. And based on the enrollment of each of those categories, it's multiplied by the rate. So we have different rates, we have different point systems, and it calculates a total. And these are the totals for the past 4 years. So it is a very convoluted process, even for us, or even for those who are finance and accounting savants. But one thing that we do know is it's critical that we understand how each student impacts the student-centered formula, funding formula, how each absenteeism or each withdrawal. And as I like to say, we all are enrollment managers, and we all we all play a role in persistence and retention. And I'll get back to the student-centered funding formula in a second. Our budget objective, they must align with the college's mission of academic quality, access, student access, and community partnerships. This year, I want to spend a couple of minutes on the City College budget timeline. Believe it or not, in 2 months, we will be starting the budget process for next year all over again. That starts in October. So we prepare draft permanent employee salary file. Departments begin identifying budget priorities. We send this communication out in October with the timelines. And I know it's tough because we're getting back in the swing of things. We're returning from the fall semester. It's year end. Budget was just adopted. Nobody wants to think about budget, but we have to start the budget process 9 months out. Considerations, cost of living adjustment. One thing to keep in mind, estimated benefits increase average 10 to 12% each year, step and column adjustments of about 10% each year, and retirement costs, which is an unfunded liability for those who are retiring and have accrued vacation. January is the governor release budget, which we all know. Permanent employee salary file updated and distributed to campuses in February, and March budget targets distributed to campus based on the resource allocation model. Going all the way to June, July, and August. Final state budget, year-end close, prepare final budget. This is where we get into trouble, where we're receiving inquiries, we're receiving budget transfer requests, PO requests, travel authorizations, journal vouchers at year end. We closed the year in June, and we still receive requests in July. The purchasing cutoff is mid-April. So we want to be cognizant of this. Again, we send out reminders. We'll continue to do so. We'll post on our website. We'll be more intentional in communicating that to the campus. But please look out for those notices with the deadlines. It is very important. We don't have the staff to, at the end of the year, as we're closing and still finalizing next year's budget, to process the influx of journal requests. One, we passed the deadline. There are very, very rare exceptions that I have to approve and the district has to approve. Other than that, they are hard deadlines. We won't go too much into campus budget development. I'll save that for another time, given our time constraints. There are a couple things that I do want to highlight in terms of responsible budget management. We can't spend more than what we're funded. You have to know your budgets. If you have any questions on how to pull your budget, how to access your budget, how to do a forecast, how to calculate your burn rate for year-end forecast. Many of you have done a fantastic job of reaching out to me. Continue to do so. If you haven't, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to set up a meeting with you. Come to your office, or you can come to my office. We'll run some reports, do some scenario planning and financial analysis. Real quick, budget monitoring. This is an important one too. Monitor your budget throughout the year, not just at year end. The reason being is because sometimes a position, and we have had this in several instances this year, there were positions that were hitting budgets that should not have, erroneously, for whatever reason. We could have had a number transposed somewhere. A couple of instances, the district posted it to the wrong account. We want to catch those as early as possible. Monitor requests and expenses for release time, overload, and advances. We all know, or maybe a refresher for some, there is really no overtime campus-wide. All overtime requires the president's approval. not deans, managers, supervisors, not even VPs. Only Ricky, President Shabazz, can approve overtime for anyone. Again, reinforcement, word to the wise, keep track of the college's year-end dates. Cutoff for purchases, as I mentioned, are mid-April, and plan accordingly for ordering supplies so that you can get through to the end of the year. This won't be the last time you hear this, but just wanted to highlight it here. Some other budget considerations, the 50% law, the fund, salaries and benefits, and release time. I'll put things into perspective for you here. We're often asked, well, do we have extra GFU funds? Her funds are going away next year. My MS funds are gone, my categoricals. Can I increase my GFU budget to offset the loss or the loss of those HERF funds, those one-time funds? No, we cannot. We don't have them. They are called one-time funds for a reason. And when they go away, we cannot supplement them with GFU funds. This is to give you a visual. Big part of this pie, the two largest parts are salaries and benefits. I don't think that comes as a surprise. However, what may come as a surprise is the percentage of our GFU budget. These two combined, salaries and benefits, about 97% of our budget. This little tiny slice, actually these three slices are in here are for supplies and equipment and capital expenditures for building furniture, fixture, and equipment. And a little tiny slice, these are rounded, some a little higher, some a little lower than 1%, discretionary, about $700,000. So in the grand scheme of things, $34+ million, we have approximately $1.3 million for supplies, discretionary, and equipment. So we do not have the funds to supplement the loss of one-time funding or categorical funds. Just a quick recap of the 50% law. It's this California code and code regulations. Current expenses of GFU, current expense of education must be on salaries of classroom instructors. And this is as a district. So we take the instructor salaries divided by our operating expenses, and we'll get to roughly 52%, I think is where we are at the district, or where we were last year. Ed code requires we calculate it, and we have auditors that are on this every single year that's calculating it for us. And same thing with the fund, faculty obligation number through Ed code and CCR Title V. It establishes that each college should reach a goal of at least 75% of credit instruction hours should be taught by full-time faculty. This excludes, however, overload, release time, and librarians. So why do we care about FTES? Why do we care about SCIF? Well, one FTES equals approximately $6,500. Going back to the spreadsheet that I shared from one of my colleagues at Palomar College, it could be a little higher, it could be a little lower, but the average is about $6,500 per student. So when we have fewer students who persist, that means that we have less FTES, which means we have less money, which means why we have limited or no additional funding for whatever the request may be. And in addition to that, as I just showed you the pie chart, we only have 3% GFU and discretionary funds there now. So our budget is very tight. Our budget is very lean. And I'm actually proud of the campus that we're able to accomplish what we do with student programs and services with our discretionary fund, our limited discretionary fund. And this is my last slide here. We're still in a deficit as a district. We're making that up, thanks in large part to HERF and MSI, which have kept us afloat for the last couple of years and will continue to do so, in addition to hold harmless going forward for the next 2 years as well. However, we should be concerned about a reversion to the mean, meaning that we've had a hot stock market. The economy has been blazing hot. However, we're seeing inflation starting to creep in. There are talks and rumblings about a recession. A recession is 2 quarters of economic downturn as determined by the National Bureau of Economic Research. We are there already. If you look at some of the leading indicators as the producer price index, the purchasing manager index, housing start, construction permits, these are leading indicators that are telling us now in the next year, we will be in a recession, which on average lasts about a year. So I think we are entering that. What that means is we'll actually have to start tightening our belts a little more, because costs are going to be increasing due to supply chain challenges and inflation. Our 1.3 million or 3% of our discretionary budget is not going to take us as far. And we'll also see, we may see a dip in enrollment during a recession as more students are going to have to work longer hours or more jobs. Ricky, this is a high level. I think I've taken up about 15 minutes or so. Any questions or anything you'd like me to add to this? Anything that you'd like to add?
Maybe we can unshare so we can
Yes.
see everyone's beautiful City College face. Before I add anything, are there any questions for John? Tilly.
Thank you, John. That was beautiful. I loved it. Can't wait for you to share it. I had one question. When you mentioned overtime, no overtime, I got it. I heard you very clearly. I just want to clarify, because we do also have quite a few grants on the campus as well. So that includes overtime on a grant. Is that correct? If I'm understanding, I thought it was any overtime goes to the president for awareness.
That's my understanding, and I will defer to Ricky to confirm.
Yeah, I mean, all overtime must be approved ultimately by the president's office. I don't know that I like by Ricky, but I guess.
You see how I put that on you?
But by the president's office. And the way that happens essentially is the vice president bringing it either to exec cabinet, which we have every Tuesday, or the vice president. And that really is just a tracking mechanism to ensure that said overtime is hitting the correct funding. Because as you saw by John's graph, when you only have $1 million of general fund. Now, I want to be clear that John didn't go over the GFR. The GFR budget is a little less than the GFU budget. But there is a need to monitor that those costs are hitting the appropriate budget. Any other questions for John?
I saw Susan in the chat asking if I can share, I think it was Susan. No, Suna, sorry, regarding the PowerPoint and the SCIF simulation. Yes, actually, I can provide that. I will do so. I'll add a little more verbiage regarding the SCIF. And are you wanting the actual Excel spreadsheet when I'm done rebuilding it or duplicating it?
I would love that. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, of course, yes. I don't know too many people that actually love it, but I'll be more than happy to.
Yeah, thanks. And it's actually pronounced Suna, like tsunami without the me at the end.
My apologies.
No worries. I don't think we've ever actually spoken in person, so I just thought I'd clear that up now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I have heard Suna explain her pronunciation of her name that
I'll never forget it now.
A number of times. And I can only imagine how many times she has had to do that, because it just rolls off so nicely. Any other questions for John? And yes, names are absolutely important. The thing that I would add in this reference to a recession, historically, for those history buffs and for those economists amongst us, typically a recession happens every 8 to 12 years, really 8 to 10 years. We're in year 12. To what degree there's going to be a recession, none of us know. John is absolutely right that 2 negative quarters equate the definition of a recession, and we are officially in our second negative quarter for growth. And so that is likely to not hit us as a district until next year's budget. Budgets start at July 1. So we are going to find ourselves in probably the most historical situation that California community colleges have ever been in. One, we have the biggest current budget that went into effect July 1 that community colleges have ever had. And that's likely to be followed by one of the most tightening budgets that we've ever had. And so I'm saying that to say is that we have a great deal of HERF funds remaining. Matter of fact, I want to give kudos to Robbie and the library team. I got a chance to hang out with John Parker, Francisco, and Eddie Jr., and the folks over in shipping and receiving. And we got to take 4 pallets of computers over to the library. And what I saw, Robbie, was a great system. I don't know that it was complicated. It seemed very simple to me, but a great system to checking in students into the library. And I was sharing with the vice presidents today that I hope everyone would take a look at that. One, because it showed that you all cared about the wonderful people who work in the library, that there was a system that people went through in order to get into the library. But let me bring this back to the budget piece, is that we're buying things now to get us through this looming recession. And so folks, please don't hold back on your request for things. And if we can get it, we will. If we can't, we'll explain to you why we can't get it. But I'm going to shoot a video over in the CAC Center where John and his team are using as storage. And then in the computer area and Robbie's, or in the R building or the library where we're storing the computers, we have 18 stand-up desks that if anyone needs one, my goal is to get those desks out of, it does no good in storage. Robbie's team has hundreds of computers, to include Apple products, that I would like to get as many of them out of there in the hands of people who need them. Now, certainly there's some of them set aside for students, but we want to make sure that you all know that we do. See, there we go, John. I already got rid of one stand-up desk from Paul. And the thing is, we send these items via email, but I feel like it's different when you see them. Like Robbie did a presentation in the last meeting that had this wonderful spreadsheet or document that he's going to email to the campus, hint, hint, Robbie, to make sure that you all know what the process is to check out the computers. But to see them there is a whole nother situation. So any questions about budgets, comments?
Feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Yeah, and John is going to be working with Maria Jose and Jocelyn and our classified professionals to do this presentation in your respective meetings, because it is so important. I know a lot of times we don't think of the college as a business, but there is a financial aspect of the college that it is imperative that we all know, that impacts hiring, that impacts our benefits, that impacts our supplies, that impacts everything we do so that we can offer this world-class education. Jocelyn.
So when you said you have stand-up desks available, so how do individuals receive that? Is there a form you fill out, or you just shoot an email and say, I want one?
Now,
like Paul just did.
I mean, essentially, as we do with anything, you're going to work with your supervisor. But it's so interesting, Jocelyn, that you would raise that question, because I know Marciano took his own money that we reimbursed him for. And I know that I went over to counseling at one point, and there were stand-up desks everywhere. And I think you still have some, Marciano.
High risers, not stand-up desks, high risers.
Yeah, desk risers. Yeah.
Desk risers.
Is there a
I
difference?
think that's what he has.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a difference.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you think I was saying, Jocelyn? Now that got
For the
myself in trouble.
ergonomics, like if you wanted to have where your desk can stand up and you can raise your computer up, so it's a stand-up desk, not a riser.
But the riser is
Allows you to elevate your computer, not for your body to stand up.
Marciano?
They serve the same purpose.
Yes.
The risers sit on top of the desk versus a desk where the whole desk rises. They both can facilitate anyone who wants to stand and work. The riser will just be your monitor, not your entire desk. Your monitor and your keyboard, not your entire desk.
Right, okay. So it's the
It's the
riser.
risers, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question, Jocelyn, and I apologize if I said the wrong terminology. It is the
That's okay.
it is the system that allows you to sit it on your desk so you can stand up and work on your computer. And there are 17 of them available. And I even think Marciano, do you know, Marciano, offhand, how many you still have?
All of ours were already given away, and the 18
Yes!
that are left are the ones that are.
So I'm bringing this up because when I was working with our wonderful team in shipping and receiving, there are supplies over there that unless you see them, you just wouldn't know that they were available, right? And so PPE and a host of other things that we want to get in the hands of the people who need them. And so anyone watching, if you would like to request a computer, I know I'm going to run into someone the next week, the week after, that's going to say, my computer doesn't work. And I didn't know that there was a laptop or whatever the case may be. And so Robbie is going to send that document out that he presented nearly 2 weeks ago, but we're also going to shoot a video in both of those locations so that people who need things know that there's an ability to get some of those things. Any other questions about the budget? And Paul, if you, John, if you would work with Paul to get one of those risers to him, and if there's anyone else in College Council or anyone else that is watching live via YouTube that would like one of those risers, please just send an email to John Parker and CC your supervisor. When they're gone, they're gone. I vowed that if we didn't get rid of them by convocation, that we would set them up and give them also to students. They serve us no purpose sitting in the warehouse over there. We want to get them in the hands of the people who need them. Ultimately, to a lesser degree, the same with the computers that Robbie has. If you need a computer, work with your supervisor, work with Robbie. We'll make sure, and these are laptops primarily that we're talking about, but we did just receive approval from the federal government to be able to purchase more desktops. I would prefer, probably against Robbie's better judgment, to not ever buy a desktop again unless it was in a lab. It's more functional to do these double monitors with a docking station, but we will buy in limited quantities desktops. But the preference, frankly, is for you to have a laptop and a docking station so that you can go back and forth between home and the office. Robbie, anything you want to say about the computers before we go to the next item on College Council?
Thanks, Ricky. Only one small item just to add is that we have a number of people who have had systems out for 2 years now, maybe a little bit less. And if they are running across any issues, it is a loaned system. It is still district property, and even things like simple updates. If you need to have assistance with that, feel free just to bring it back to the tech team in the R building, and we will assist you in doing that. There are some folks who've actually swapped out, have been swapping for maybe before they had a Mac, and now they wanted a PC and vice versa. So we are seeing some movement after, like you would after any activity that's more than 2 years long. But we are trying to find our way back to a new normal. And arguably, we want parties to have exactly what they need at their desktop when they come to work as well. And thank you for making that announcement, Ricky. We hope to have basically, I would say, very early fall semester, we hope to have make a major impact on the type of desktop. If you have an aging desktop that's begging for retirement, it's quite likely that it's about to be swapped out, hopefully within a couple months.
Yeah, and a small commercial a reminder being that the supply chain still is a challenge for computers, which is why we just received those 4 pallets of laptops that have been ordered many months ago. So things are coming in. We'll move to number 5. Yes.
Hi, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. My question is for Mr. Yule. Thank you first and foremost for providing that avenue so that we can get some newer technology, especially since most of us have been remote the last couple of years or so. So I just want to clarify, for example, for the faculty who will be returning in the next couple of weeks, is it safe to assume that they can ask for a loaner laptop while they wait for either a desktop or a more permanent solution to arrive? Is that the right direction?
Well, it's an option that's already available to every faculty member. They can request a loaner laptop, even if they love their desktop, because they may be working from home and maybe not carrying our desktop, which they cannot take that home with them.
Right.
But truth be told, in fairness, I should share with everyone that the new generation desktops are primarily a whole different look, in which you're primarily looking at a 24-inch monitor with a holster in the back that holds the actual mini computer. So it is a space saver. The only thing, it really is a larger system, and it will change your desktop as you've known it. If someone as a faculty member finds that the current system is problematic, if it needs troubleshooting, we still have protocols in the document that Ricky alluded to. I'll mention this protocol, that particularly for office machines being used by, we call them administrative machines, being used by personnel. They have a password from district IT on them, an administrative control, and therefore it is more than appropriate to contact the district IT help desk to mention that there is a problem with the existing system.
Okay.
And trust me, they are very familiar with the age of some of our systems. So they will respond and give an honest assessment. If they can address whatever the question might be or the problem, they will. But the good news that's right around the corner is that if a system is particularly old, we are going to definitely be replacing it with newer gear.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, and let me qualify that because it does not mean, nor are we in a financial situation to replace every single desktop with a new one, right? That is not what Robbie is saying. But to your question, Tilly is working on a letter that will go to the homes of every faculty member, because in addition to computing, in addition to your question, as people who have not been back on campus come to campus, there's kind of a protocol they need to go through to start their computers back up. So we've been in conversations with Maria Jose and Tilly. I would ask that all of the dean offices and the administrative assistants in both student services and instruction receive a copy of that letter so that they know what was sent to the faculty members. But to that question, we have been working with the Academic Senate on this matter so that we can send a communication to the homes and via email of all the faculty members so that they know like the protocol for starting their computer. I think Tilly's on pace to send that communication out by the end of the week. We'll make sure that the support classified professionals get a copy of that letter as well, because you're the ones likely to get the phone calls asking what's going on with this or that. So we'll make sure you guys get a copy of it. Any other questions before we move on to number 5?
Ricky, may I offer just a real quick comment?
Sure.
We have 2 major developments that we probably may want to put on the agenda for next College Council. One of them is our conversion to Office 365.
It's number 9, Robbie, on this agenda.
Well, okay, but on top of that, student emails as well are coming forward.
That's also number 9 on this agenda.
So we don't have to wait till next time. Fantastic.
Great minds think alike, Robbie. And yes, that is number 9 on this agenda. And we'll dive a little further into it momentarily. And speaking of momentarily, we have spent the last 5 years, at least while I was here, and certainly years prior to me arriving, creating safe spaces on our campus. We have a Dreamers Center, we have a Center for Formerly Incarcerated, we have a Women's Center, we have a Pride Center, and a host of other spaces on campus. And this year, this budget year, the state provided additional resources for campuses to support our LGBTQ plus efforts on campus. And I'm going to turn it over to our Vice President of Students who's leading those efforts with a number of people on campus, both student services and instruction. Marciano?
Yeah, so thank you for giving me the opportunity. I just wanted to briefly share, as Ricky mentioned, we were given an allocation by the state, about $103,000 to start working on our LGBTQ plus efforts on campus. And so one of the things that we did working with Adan, our acting dean of student affairs, and the Pride work group that we have. There's some faculty and classified professionals that are part of that group. We had our first training with Dr. Mural Irving, who came last week. And if I could just share my screen real quick, Janelle, and I can share the flyer while I'm sharing this.
You can share your screen, Marciano.
All right, let's see, there it is, sorry. So this is we did a training, specialized student pathway, enrollment, retention, and overall student experience for our LGBTQ plus students. We met just this past last Wednesday from 8:30 to noon in MS 140, and Dr. Irving came and then really engaged with us on kind of campus culture around LGBTQ plus student populations, thinking a little bit about where we are in terms of our center, where we are in terms of the messaging on our website. And so where Dr. Irving is going to be working with us over the next 6 months, coming and doing some really intentional work, setting the foundation for how we're going to hopefully build out our Pride Center, and how we're going to engage with students and classified professionals and faculty on our campus around this topic. And so the next group set of meetings are going to happen at the end of September. Dr. Irving is going to come and meet with students, and then also going to have an opportunity to meet with classified professionals and faculty to kind of learn a little bit more about the experience from those folks on our campus. And then again, one of the things that he's doing is also going to be working with the Pride work group and looking at things like our website and how we can market things a little differently. He took us through an exercise and some things that we frankly didn't know. Ricky has shared this before, that we each have blind spots. And this has been one of the areas that there were things that were on there that we just were not aware. And I'll just give a real quick example. We have a landing page for our groups, and on the LGBTQ plus page, for some reason, there wasn't a president's welcome as part of it. And we're trying to figure out, but there was on the other groups. And so just little things like that we need to be more conscious of. And so this work that Dr. Irving is leading us is just that. It's the beginning stages of where we are. And then I am also working with Adan to come up with a staffing structure and a staffing plan for the Pride Hub, which will include bringing in some graduate interns to do some targeted programming and things like that in that space, and really making that a welcoming space for our students, our classified professionals, and faculty on campus. So with that said, I don't know if there's any questions that folks have, or is there anything else that you'd like me to share?
Well, thank you, Marciano, and for the Pride work group and everyone involved in this effort. I just want to state two things that I learned as I transitioned into the presidency here. I went and visited the San Diego Center and learned a great deal about how to do a better job of supporting our employees and students who are members of this community. And two data points that is very important for us to know is students who are LGBTQ plus are some of the highest, if not the highest, likelihood of being homeless, and the suicide rate. And so we have an obligation as a college who's committed to social justice to providing a space where students are not suicidal, that they feel welcomed, and that they can complete their studies in a safe environment. So I commend everyone who showed up to the training. And if you didn't come to the training, you have an opportunity to come to another training. We do communicate these things via email, so be on the lookout for the flyer. And so we will continue to provide an environment where all students feel supported when they come on campus. And we've launched those efforts. I want to thank everyone who participated in our first lavender graduation. And so we have a number of efforts underway for various groups of students and students who are involved in, are members of various communities, and the intersectionality of these communities and how we support students, because our students, much like they attend multiple campuses within our district, they also are members of multiple communities here on campus. So looking forward to those efforts, Marciano. Thank you. Any questions for Marciano? In our yes.
Is there an expected date when we can see a Pride Center come up? Is there a Pride Center currently?
There is. Thank you for asking. It is located in the L building. It is part of the intercultural hubs that were established under Title V with our Title V grant. We actually, Sylvia Ramirez was actually one of the folks that was instrumental in helping to kind of bring it forth in terms of having some students in there and some programming that happened. And that is part of one of the things that we're trying to work on, is the visibility part of the center. Because just like you asked, we were surprised to learn that there were lots of folks that didn't know that we've had that. And we've had that Pride Center for about a year now. So even though we haven't been fully open, we've been doing some things. So we got to do a better job. And so to answer, the short answer is yes. On the second floor of the L building, the Pride Center is there and open for, will be open for students, faculty, and classified professionals to come in and hang out and do some programming in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, you absolutely are not alone, because it opened during COVID when we were, many of us were not on campus as often as we are now. There is nice signage on the door, and to put it in perspective, and Marcio, maybe we can bring this back next meeting to do a visual. I know I'm more visual in terms of where it's located, and the other, hopefully Caesar or somebody can do a schematic for you, because there are three or four centers in the space, right? So we have a women's center, we have a Pride Center, we have the Center for Gen students. Am I missing one?
No, because the formerly incarcerated center moved over to M building. Yeah,
so maybe you can bring this back with a diagram of where it's located. And I also want to echo Marciano's sentiment that Sylvia did an amazing job of decorating it. We haven't had a formal grand opening because of COVID, and there's still some work to be done using these grants. So I'm sure in the coming months, a part of this effort that we're talking about on number 5 will be an actual grand opening of the center. It's just not there yet, and we want to get the students involved working with Dr. Irving. Any other questions? But you can stop by. And we also have to get some staffing over there, because we're in flux with staffing right now. Or should we say in transition with staffing? Speaking of in transition, last meeting we went over the space request process, and there were several questions about classroom space. And so I asked Tilly if she would mind either answering those questions. I go over her process as the VPI and working with the deans and the chairs. Tilly?
Thank you, Ricky. And I'm so glad, Xenia, you're here today, because you can help me out on the process as well, having all that experience. So I'm just going to go back to before, when we were on campus, because it seems so long ago. And how did we do it? And how do we go back about there before? So when I first arrived, there was a room matrix that we were utilizing. And in that transition with Campus Solutions, we now have something called Ad Astra. And some people are using it, some people are not using it so well, because not every room is really to capacity on the system. So it's kind of been a hit or miss. And I think people are using their traditional, this is how we work. How does it say, Ricky? This is how we've always done it, kind of motto. But we actually developed prior to the pandemic, building captains. So each dean is actually has either one or a couple of buildings that they're a building captain of. And that purpose was really something was to happen. They're the ones that we go to for anything in that building and also for overseeing classroom spaces. So we are kind of in a little bit of a different space at the moment. One particular building that I want to bring attention to would be the T building. The T building Robbie and I talked about today happens to have the following building captains: Robbie Ewell, Jeannie Tyler, Masa Mai, Shayna Carr. Did I miss one? Help me out. So we have 4 building.
Letty Lopez.
Letty, thank you. I knew I was going to be Letty Lopez. So there's 5 building captains for one building. How do we get spaces in there? So really the building captains where we're at the process right now is not where we've been before, because things had been moving so quickly and then we were in the pandemic online. So now we're trying to develop that process of, are there certain rooms, like we're not going to go and take a space that is a lab specifically for electricity, right, and move it into something else. But there are other spaces that are identified as kind of open spaces for everyone to work together. It's not a clean answer, but right now it's really through your manager, through your dean. They're working together to decide which spaces those are. And I know that's not a great clean answer at the moment until we can get Ad Astra all the way where it needs to be. My office is actually working with Robbie, who happens to have the technology for classrooms. He has that information. My office is verifying so that Ad Astra can be brought up to the par where I don't know that it'll ever be at room matrix, because I know you all were very happy with that. So I can't guarantee that piece of it. I'm just going to say we're going to get it as the best we can. So long story short, right now, it really needs to go through the deans, especially if you're in the T building. 1 of 5 building captains have to get together and make those decisions. And I see Masa's here, Robbie's here. If you want to contribute to that, what are your thoughts? Did I miss something?
So I would just offer that, say for any individual making a request for a classroom, they would send that or move that request to the person, their respective dean.
Correct.
In that area. So it would never leave the chain of command, if you will. And they would actually talk to their dean, say if it's Jeannie, and of course, if it's the T building, Jeannie may. If it impacts other deans who also handle spaces, then that conversation would take place. The only other side comment I would make is that you're absolutely correct. We do have a technology inventory because most of these rooms we're talking about are smart classrooms. Some smarter than others, but most are smart classrooms. And ironically, we're at the stage where we're going to be refreshing some of these classrooms with newer tech. So in some regard, they're already special, but they're not specialized rooms, as you alluded to. There are other rooms that were designed particularly for select lab gear or activity that simply cannot be replicated someplace else. So it's a very good point that it's more than just a notion in deciding what room someone may want to take on.
Thank you. And I didn't know if there were any questions. And if I may, Ricky, and Xenia, was there, because you know, Xenia, you're an expert in this area. Is there anything that I missed from your perspective that would be added?
Well, I think you're spot on. The request should go through the respective dean's area or / building captain. And honestly, it's going to be the admins that are going to be viewing those classrooms for you, because we are also the schedulers. So we prepare the classes, we schedule them, and we have full access, elevated access, if you will, in Ad Astra. So if you are going to go to the dean's offices, as you should, because that's the process, then you should follow up with the admins directly and maybe copy the deans in that communication. That would be my best guess, is that it's how it's handled in every school at City.
See, it's so good to have you here with our meeting today. Thanks. Already added to it. Any other questions about scheduling? Hearing none, I would like to kind of go over a document that we put together every year for the board. And Caesar, I don't know if you have the ability to share the document for me. And let's see here. This is the first time I've had a chance to sit at my own desk today. So let's
Ricky, the accomplishment handout?
Yeah, you know what? I see it. We are good. It is in the email that was sent to campus. Thank you, Caesar and his team, for putting it together. Thank you, Janelli, for including it. If I could, Janelli, get access to share.
You're able to share your screen.
And so this is just, well, not just, but this is a small number, a snippet, sample of the many accomplishments. This document was created by Caesar, working with the vice presidents and the deans and their respective divisions to kind of just provide our board with a highlight of the many accomplishments during a pandemic, folks. We, as you all should know, launched, completed 4 wonderful murals. If you haven't seen these murals, every time I walk by the Chicano 50th anniversary mural that is in the City Commons, also known as our dining hall, this mural is probably at least 5 murals in one. Every time I go look at it, I see a different scene that I didn't see before. The artist did an amazing job. I would even be embarrassed to tell you what we paid this amazing artist to paint this. Like, what we got for this mural is amazing. Every one of them is amazing in their own rights. The Kumiya Mural, painted by one of our former students who is a member of the Kumiya Nation. The mural showing social justice. Every one of these murals is amazing. We had our 50th anniversary of our Chicano Latino graduation in the A building. The team, Tia, and everyone in student affairs, all the volunteers, Dean, our acting Dean, Adon Sanchez, everyone who helps with the basic needs, mental health, food distribution, the team who worked on Welcome Back Week, the free coffee. You see Neri there and Dee and others dancing. We continue to put a lot of focus on bringing people back to work. Our outreach and marketing team, making sure we have a presence in the community. We had a group led by Robbie Yule and our PD coordinators to help us with our land acknowledgement that led to us opening our Native American Studies professor position. We do stand on the land of the Kumiya, and we acknowledge that we gather on their land. And so now we have that. We awarded more scholarships this year than in the history of the college, which included the launch of the President's Scholarship funded by Jim Senegal, where we gave out over $50,000 in the amount of $2,500 worth of scholarship checks and MacBook laptops. Thank you to John and his team for securing those things. Speaking of John and his team, we received over a $300,000 grant to build housing. We will have John in the next meeting provide an update on housing. And you see a number of the other accomplishments. This is just a sample of those many accomplishments. And then we see some challenges. We need additional classified professionals. I am going to be coming next meeting to provide our top 5 hiring lists. Each of the vice presidents work with their divisions to put together those hiring lists. PeopleSoft continues to be a challenge. We have an amazing team in financial aid. This is not about the office. This is just about PeopleSoft and the processing of financial aid to ensure that we get the funds in the hands. And we continue to have an opportunity and a challenge with our San Diego City College Foundation. So you'll see hiring, and our goal is to have 3 staff members in the foundation office so that we can continue to maximize our ability to bring in additional funding for the college. And so just wanted to share many of the accomplishments. I want to stop the share and give each of the vice presidents an opportunity if there was 1 or 2 things you'd like to share in terms of the accomplishments of your team and your respective division. And certainly we'll open it up to questions. Tilly, you're first on my screen. Any just high level things that come out in terms of the accomplishments of instruction, leading and supporting our students during a pandemic?
I think you just stole the words out of my mouth, leading and instructing our students while in a pandemic. Just so proud of this college. Our faculty have done a tremendous job. I think back to March of 2020 and when it was like dragging people. Do you remember that, Ricky, trying to drag people to leave? And then now we're trying to drag them back. So I think they've done a great job adapting and you know what, just adapting continuously. So I know you have a lot of the beautiful accomplishments already there, but they continue to move forward and as always amaze me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to all of our wonderful faculty and certainly Maria Jose. I'll pivot to you in a moment. Marciano, any high level things in terms of accomplishments for student services?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would just love to highlight is, one of the things I think you'll see in that document is that in student services, we've really used the pandemic as an opportunity to really look at how we're serving our students and coming up how we use technology in different ways to reach out to students in ways that we hadn't done in the past. And so, we've done some really creative things like, we have counselors that are working on Saturdays now, providing Saturday appointments for students. That's something we had never done before. And so I just, I really want to recognize that we've got counselors that are working on Saturdays doing that. We've got admissions and records who are using Cranium Cafe in a way to create virtual lobbies to be able to help students. We've got financial aid using JIRA as a way for students to submit all of their documents, as opposed to in previous years where they had to come in and drop off things. And so really utilizing technology during this pandemic as a way to serve our students who we know have been really impacted during this time. And so that's, to me, is one of probably the biggest highlights is everybody has stepped in and looked at how we can do our job of serving students in better ways. And so kudos to my team for leading the way in that way.
Great. John, any thoughts from administrative services?
Yes, similarly, repurposing HERT funds for various student services, support and program software, computer, expansion of learning spaces, providing direct aid from institutional funds, the approval of the facility master plan with input from all stakeholders and students, and the housing grant, as you just alluded to. Our facilities maintenance and ground folks have been here for the last 2.5 years. They haven't gone anywhere. The same is so with shipping, receiving, and most of admin services, particularly business services, as well, as we have to continue to work on budgeting and allocating our limited resources.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring up, and I know you would, I'm speaking on both of our behalf, Roxanne. Solis in her being on a sabbatical the last 6 months, but really being here for this, for the college, for her community, and all of your team going above and beyond. Got a chance to hang out again with the folks in shipping and receiving, and they love this college as much as everyone else. And so we see it in the pride and the way they carry themselves. Maria, is there anything that comes up in terms of accomplishments from the Senate's perspective?
You know, for me, it's really the perseverance and resilience of our faculty members, and the fact that, you know, through COVID, many of us reinvented ourselves, learned new tools, new pedagogies. So now coming back in person, you know, it's this excitement and this fear of, oh boy, now I'm really good at teaching online. Did I ever taught in class? Yes, I did for many, many, many years. So it's really bringing all the wonderful tools that we learned through COVID and implement that for the benefit of the student. What are the things that actually really work well for us as online, hybrid, Zoom educators that we can bring into the classroom, just like we did when bringing what we did well into the classroom into our online spaces. So it's really that resilience and that flexibility that we all learn to really embrace and bring back. So I'm just excited for all of us.
Great.
And for our students.
Thank you. Zini, anything you would like to say on behalf of the classified professionals?
Well, as you know, a lot of our classified remained on campus through the pandemic and continue to be there, even with, you know, not having so many classes online. And so just, I think that I personally, and I know that the college feels the same way, you know, we really value and appreciate our classified for all of the things that they're able to do and helping to ensure that this ship continues. And also, I think our ultimate goal is to be there for the students and ensuring that we're providing the best care and compassion and empathy, and that they're not alone in their experiences, that a lot of us share those experiences. So I commend the classified. Thank you so much for always going above and beyond, even when, you know, it's hard sometimes to do so. And I think that we've all learned to adapt and become innovative in ways that we didn't have to be prior to that. So I do look forward to seeing more of my co-workers and colleagues in the fall, and we're very excited to have more students back on our campus. As we all know, they are the heartbeat of our campus, and if it weren't for them, none of us would exist. So I very much look forward to that. Thank you.
Very well said, and I completely agree. Jocelyn, any thoughts on behalf of SPA?
Well, my sentiments definitely is aligned with the Academic Senate and Classified Senate and all of you. I would say for SPA supervisors, they are the hub, and I just really want to thank all supervisors for the care they've shown for the teams they lead. They have to go way and beyond showing empathy and care and concern for their team. And as many of us are the front line, they really have shown up and stepped up and being flexible, being able to operate both modalities, in person and virtual remote. So for the supervisors out there, my heart goes out to you. I'm so thankful to be a part of you. And I know our college definitely appreciate all that you do. So I just really want to say to the supervisors, hang in there. I know it's not easy, but we can get through it together. And just thank you for all that you do.
Thanks, Jocelyn. Diego, any thoughts in terms of students and any of the accomplishments you or things you noticed over the last year?
A lot of professors and staff were able to adapt to being on Zoom, and how they still set up events like I don't remember what was the name of the event for where they had African food that you attended, but that was amazing. as well as just being able to provide different services, like with Robbie Ewell opening up the library and having it all spaced out so students can attend. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Diego. Certainly the overarching document was put together with support of our wonderful deans and managers, and not that I'm not going to give you all the floor, but I kind of spoke on behalf of administration, and as did the vice presidents, and just moving us along. Any questions about the accomplishments document before we go further? Again, it's something I produce annually for the Board of Trustees as part of their retreat. And I get to brag about this wonderful college that we all love and our colleagues. Yes. Suna.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to all the chairs who have been working so hard on the schedule and having to navigate reduced enrollment. And in addition to their own teaching, trying to support all of their other full-time faculty and make sure that their adjuncts and their make sure that all of their part-time faculty are like taken care of. They've worked really hard to make sure that if they couldn't get them classes, they might have been able to find them other work on campus so that they didn't go hungry. So.
No, thank you for that. And absolutely, when we're shouting out our faculty, the chairs are in a very important leadership role on the campus, is helping us, around enrollment management and class offerings and modality and that sort of thing. And I sincerely appreciate our chairs, and have gotten to know many of them a lot closer as we try to get things in the hands of our students and our faculty to support the modality in which we are offering our courses. So thank you for that. Anything else before we move to the next item? If we missed something, let us know. If you did something innovative, if you're doing something innovative, we would love to be able to highlight it, work with your supervisor, work with the leaders who are on this call. We'd love to be able to highlight. Again, I learned something every day. I had a chance to go to the library yesterday, or our building, was impressed with their check-in system. I'm sure there are other things that I would be equally impressed with. Let us know, invite us. We love doing visits to areas of the campus to see what's going on. Speaking of what's going on, student housing. I'm going to turn it back over to John Parker to provide an update what's going on with our student housing project.
Thank you. As you're aware, we received $344,000 of SB 169 planning grant, and we've engaged SGP&A architects in planning to walk us through that process, similar to what we did with the facility master plan and the conceptual, high-level conceptual design considerations and funding options for the construction grant application that we'll submit again in October. You may recall we submitted last fall, but for the planning and construction, however, we were only approved for the planning grant. So I'll share the timeline. We were able to meet just yesterday. It was a half day. The VPs and I and Lance LaRue from the district met with the SGP&A team, a couple who flew in, some were local as well. And we had the highlighted right here meeting yesterday. We had a kickoff last month virtually, and we had an in-person half-day session to discuss the goals, the vision, and the eco-charrette. Regarding sustainability, we're not going for a LEED certification, but most student housing, because it's cost prohibitive for the most part, but student housing or most construction these days locally are built with sustainable methods anyhow, with light management, energy use, low or no flush toilets, if you will, and recycled materials. The next meeting will be the end of this month, 8/29, and we'll have a series of meetings going to mid or end of October. Again, this is going to be high level, similar to the facilities master plan, where we engage the stakeholders, the students, the various constituencies, and the campus for their input. We'll do climate surveys. We'll also, or I guess SGP&A, will do outreach, engagement, and outcomes, and they'll finish with a final housing recommendations and final review after the market demand analysis. That will be critical as well for the application submission, again, for round 2 of SB 169 construction funding. This here is not going to be the final product. If we fast forward and we are awarded 169 funds, or whether it be a P3 partnership, we will have to engage another firm to go through the conceptual schematics, design development, and eventual construction documents. Again, this is so this is very high level. To give you an idea, this grant is $344,000. We're helping primarily this will help us submit for the next construction application. However, we'll need renderings, we'll need conceptual designs, and a market demand analysis. But to put it in perspective, if we're awarded these funds, the next level is so much more involved in detail. The price tag for that, just for the architects, will be anywhere from $9 to $10 million. So that'll give you an idea of the scope of the architects once we get there, and the scope of this architect and planning firm that we're going through now. So keep an eye out for those invites for the forthcoming meetings with the college outreach and students, and outreach engagement outcomes. Happy to answer any questions regarding student housing SB 169 planning grant.
And John, would you mind sharing? Well, go ahead, Diego. I'll ask my question after you, Diego.
It's not about the housing plan, but it's about housing. I was told that Poway is planning an initiative to have homeless students sleep in their parking garages. How possible would that be to do that at City College?
Yeah, I would say, Diego, that is something we could add to the agenda for a future agenda item. And certainly Marciano and I could come to a future student government meeting and have that discussion. Diego, you should also be encouraged to bring that forward to your, help me with the name, Marciano, the district.
USC, United Student Council.
Yes, and here's the reason why, Diego, and those watching, the district has a campus closure time, which is 10 p.m., I believe. And so this matter, Diego, has come up at least 3 times since I've been the president at San Diego City College. And certainly there are pros and cons to doing this. There is also, Diego, a cost to doing this, because once you allow people to sleep in the parking lots, then someone has to be here to man the parking lots, the restrooms. So what I'll tell you is that the colleges that have done this have learned a great deal about how to maintain projects, but this is absolutely a worthwhile discussion. And so please work with those areas that I outlined to have a more detailed conversation about this matter.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Shabazz.
Any other questions about student housing? I just want to go on record as saying this is one of my top priorities as the president, is ensuring between now and the time I retire from San Diego City College, we will have student housing here. I also would like to figure out a way and have put it on record of how to embed employee housing somehow into this, because we have some very deserving people in facilities and other offices that are some of our most deserving employees on the campus who frankly cannot afford, much like our students, the high cost of living in San Diego. And so if you would like to be involved in this process, John, I was going to ask you, can you identify, and if you can't identify now, because I don't ever want to put someone on the spot, if you could in writing, who from the faculty, classified professionals, SPA are on this planning committee working on this project? You're muted, John.
I can get that to you. I can put that in writing.
Yeah, if you could provide a written update to the campus and identify who the representatives from the constituency groups are. I think that's very important in terms of making sure that information flows back to those respective constituency groups.
Will do.
Moving forward, just very quickly, because yes, Tilly.
I just wanted to clarify with what you just mentioned with the housing. So when you're talking about the constituency groups on coming forward on the future charrettes, is that what you're asking? Or because currently we're just getting the group together to be able to present to the whole campus. Are you just asking to make sure that all groups are represented at those charrettes?
So, I mean, ultimately, I'm saying two things. One, there's a planning committee working on this that John is working with, that we identified representatives from the various constituency groups on that overarching planning group. And then charrettes, that's an interesting term. The presentations where we present the information, then we'll go to the constituency groups as a whole, right? So it's both.
I think what Tilly is getting at is we don't have a committee per se for this particular endeavor, for this planning grant.
And we will.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
I'm with you now.
And, you know, bless John's heart, he is still adapting to participatory governance in a California community college, which means, John, we have a committee for changing the toilet paper so that everybody can be involved in what color it is, how soft it is, where it's located, and we can identify to all of our wonderful constituency groups which of their representatives was involved in that process.
You're absolutely right.
And fortunately, we are early enough in this process to assemble. And John, you may decide to use your existing health and safety committee that also takes on facilities related matters. We just need to be clear on who those individuals are, right?
We were hoping to use the facility master plan committee. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that makes sense, right? So let's just, if that is what you're deciding, let's just take that for the record and communicate that to the respective constituency groups so that they have knowledge of that. If there are no other questions about housing, I'll go to number 9, which is our last item, which is, as Robbie said, and to Robbie's credit, we added this because we realized people were getting questions about the migration of Office 360. For those managers on the line and that are watching via YouTube, we have moved today's managers meeting to Zoom to accommodate that we actually had some challenges with the migration of Office 360 today and didn't get to certain people that who may be working from home today, that the managers meeting was going to be in person. So I want to accommodate that. I'm noticing some people are at home. So we'll move that meeting to Zoom so that we can accommodate people who are working from home today, because we do support people working from home at least one day a week. So while we were in this meeting, you should have received an email from our manager at the district who is over IT that we are in the midst of this migration to the cloud. That's a misnomer. It's actually not a cloud per se, but to a higher level of a Microsoft Office than we currently have. And here, and I'll ask Robbie, because I don't even want to pretend to be a techie, but Robbie, we got to say this very quickly, and that is this should solve the storage issues that many of us have, where we get those emails saying you've reached the maximum storage. This will also allow us, as you all heard me, I think, announce during the spring convocation, we will have student emails with .edu addresses this fall. So as we complete, I believe we're the last of the colleges that are migrating to Microsoft Office 360. Our students will have email addresses. We'll be talking more about that. Certainly that'll allow them to access some discounts that only come by having a .edu. If you log into your email, you get a very interesting question or notification that says your email is down or your login was unsuccessful. That's because we're going through this migration. Let me turn it over to Robbie to see if there's anything else you want to say as we go through this process.
Actually, you said it quite well, Ricky. Perhaps just let parties know that migration is beginning this evening. So it is moving relatively fast. A lot of checks and balances are already in play to make sure that if you run into an issue, if you just don't want to wait a few moments and then try to go back in again, it should be just fine. There was a little, in looking at some of the announcement, parties thought they might be down for a few days in terms of email. That's not true. They'll said most will be probably just a couple hours at most that your email may be down as things are being transitioned in phases. But you're correct. Your assessment is spot on. This will take care of a world of ills, and actually everyone will be using the same version and generation of Microsoft products throughout the suite. District IT is poised that if they run into any issues, they see this as a major upgrade and they're ready to respond should you run into any problems. But it probably will go seamlessly. You probably will not even notice much of a difference unless you are using something out of Windows XP your system, something very old. I'm just joking, but
that was an IT joke.
Yeah, Robbie. It should be fine.
Yeah, thank you, Robbie, and thank you for bringing this up as an item. We realized it this morning because Janelli was having a challenge logging in. It was connected to the migration. We thought we probably should add this. There was an email that went out many weeks ago throughout the district saying we were going to be doing this, and so we really need your help communicating with your colleagues if they're having problems logging in. For the next day or so is probably connected to this migration. We did, Janelli did have that as a challenge herself, which is kind of why we got the agenda out a little late, and then we made an addition to the agenda. And moving forward, we're going to get back to getting the agenda out by Friday or Monday at the latest. If you would like to get an agenda item, please on the agenda, work with Janelli and we'll be happy to do so. Any questions as we are 4 minutes over our ending time? Any questions about the migration of our email system and student emails? There will be broad communication as this is rolled out for students. Yes.
Sorry, I know we're over time. I just wanted to ask if there's a possibility of having those same trainings during regular business hours as opposed to in the evenings for our classified professionals.
When you say trainings, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the email that went out by Peter Mural. Oh, that's
yeah.
I'm sorry, I misread. No, I'm so sorry about that.
No worries. I sometimes misread things, particularly when I don't have my glasses on. No, I'm saying that for me though. So no, what the email says is essentially the migration for most people are going to happen this evening to try to minimize the likelihood. So that was code word for don't check your email this evening. have an evening off. Don't check your email. Let the migration happen. But if you do log in and you get a very interesting response, it's because of the migration. Give it a couple hours, wait till the morning, you'll be able to log in. We saw that happen with Janelli and a host of other people. If there aren't any other items, folks, it's always good to see you all. Again, if you have ideas, if you have suggestions, we want to hear about it, whether you're watching via YouTube or you are already on College Council. Good to see you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.